next guest is concerned that Jamaica's firearm law unfairly treats imitation guns in the same way it does real firearms, carrying penalties of up to 15 years in prison. Joining us this morning to unpack this controversial topic is attorney at law Kimberly Whitaker. Morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm great. Thanks.
The same sentence, even if you know what the fake gun was used for. In other words, she has a play. She didn't get permission to use a fake gun.
Yes.
But it was used in the play, and everybody knows in the play it was used. So if they came in and she would, I don't know if they would get her 15 years, but that would set her up for a sentence like that?
So based on the new law, there is a defense that if you have the imitation firearm for a lawful purpose, then that would constitute a defense. But unfortunately for you, madam, you'd have to be charged by the police. You wouldn't be granted bail. You would have to appear before a judge who considers the facts at that point, because they have judicial discretion to consider the facts in relation to bail. And then at that point, you'd be given a mention date or a case management hearing date, and you'd appear before the court on different occasions until the file is ready.
Even if they knew that it was just for the show or the play that she had it.
That is your defense.
And you don't get bail?
The police officers who are tasked to enforcing the law, they do not have the discretion to say, oh, Adela, yeah, man, is a play. Manor. No, that is favoritism. So they have to put the matter before the courts. And we don't know how long that would take. Yes, there may be discussions with the Office of the DPP in relation to the facts, which is that she had it for a
That's
play.
one of the issues you have.
And that is one of the issues.
All right, can we just back up a little bit though, Kimberly, and explain what the Firearms Act of 2022 says about the imitation firearms and how it treats it under the law?
It says that any object, essentially, that has the appearance of a firearm, that will cause you to be liable to serve 15 years imprisonment because it is a prohibited weapon. So under prohibited weapons, we have missiles, missile launchers, prohibited firearms, grenades, and then when you go down the bottom, you see imitation firearms. So the penalty for having an imitation firearm is 15 years. And if you choose to resist and vehemently explain why you're in possession of this firearm, imitation firearm, and the police think that you're resisting, the minimum is 20 years.
Back to Delia's thing now. Can she get permission and it would be okay, or she can't get permission to use a fire?
Under the Firearms Act, there are provisions where for certain creative persons or industry, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So never speaking to critic. When I read it, Kimberly, I said to myself, but let's be fair though. If somebody, brings an imitation firearm to me, and I don't know it's an imitation firearm.
A see-through water gun.
Oh, even a see-through water gun.
Is an imitation firearm.
Okay.
Someone asked me about a cake. You know that some of the bakers, they're very talented. Something as simple as a cake. Can that be considered an imitation firearm? I believe that the law is silent and it gives too much power to determining what is an imitation firearm. It encapsulates anything that looks like a firearm.
All right, let me play devil's advocate here. Would the lawmakers, or did the lawmakers do this because they think people are using imitation firearms for, nefarious means?
And in thinking about the issue, there are unscrupulous, criminally minded individuals who don't have access to a firearm and may shape out a firearm to go and commit a robbery or commit a felony. However, the intention of Parliament, I'm humbly suggesting, on the ground, 3 years after the fact, it is not encapsulating those persons. Innocent children who we know they're not au fait with the law. We don't expect them to be educated on certain things because they're still learning. So when you have a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old who playing water war or whatever, throw down the imitation firearm, for example, in a car, in a house, and mommy is driving, police stop mommy and happen to see that weapon, who is liable? The mother going to say, oh, it's my son. Oh, yeah, man, I know it. This is not real. See, it's not real. The mother is liable to be arrested.
I'm curious, and this might fall under the Customs Act, but also are imitation firearms not prohibited from being imported to Jamaica? I'm trying to figure out how would one, if it's brings this kind of penalty,
yes,
how would one get one in the first place?
And on the ground, as I talk to persons, I was speaking to some friends, and they were saying that they have to go back to country to ensure, because they had water guns back then growing up, and they have moved to Kingston to work and to carry out their lives. And they're like, are you saying to me that my mother, who is still in the family home, she has to go through my toys now to ensure that the water gun I had when I was 10 or 15 is thrown away? She doesn't even know it exists, really.
Yep. I don't know if it still happens, but as a young man, everybody get gun for Christmas.
Exactly.
So even those?
Even those.
Give me some solutions here.
One, decriminalize toy guns. If it's obvious that it's a see-through plastic gun, no negative inference can be drawn that when you see a child with that weapon or anyone with that weapon, that they would use it in the commission of a robbery or commission of an offense, because it is clearly a Nerf toy gun. I believe those should be decriminalized. And also look at the word imitation. It is too broad. It is really too broad. And also we need to educate, have a public education campaign going to schools until it is done, because persons are coming into conflict with the law who ordinarily wouldn't, and who is suffering. Not only them, us as a whole, Jamaicans, taxpayers. Can you imagine persons are being convicted, and for 15 years, 25 years, who you think is paying that bill to feed them, to keep them alive in an institution? It is us. And all our families, I think, can be affected. And I don't want it to become a case where it happens to you and it drops on your doorstep, and it is at that time you say, oh my goodness, I didn't know. So that is why at this point I'm standing up and I'm trying to make this issue known.
Well, Ms. Whittaker, do you know of cases where it was proven that it was toy gun, it wasn't used for any activity to rob nobody or frighten nobody, and they still were charged and convicted?
And the parents, the mother was charged.
And convicted?
Not convicted, as in the matters are before the courts and I'm not really allowed to go into much detail, but seeing it play out and seeing the defense that is being put forward, yes, I know my son, everybody knows it was a movie prop. Children make movies, it doesn't have to be established persons. Children can get up and keep themselves occupied and say, hey, let's do something, put it on YouTube, and they're still before the courts awaiting their day, because there's a hesitation to plead guilty. Nobody is going to advise their child to plead guilty to 15 years imprisonment, because that is the law. So as attorneys now, we are being forced to take this matter to trial, take these matters to trial.
Wow.
And if you don't plead guilty?
Trial, and as such, there's a backlog.
And
if you plead guilty, prison. No one is advising their child to plead guilty.
You know how many cases like this?
No, I can only speak about what I'm experiencing, and I'm in the courts daily, and I'm seeing some strange cases that it's clear there was no criminal intent.
And with Halloween coming up, we might get even more little picnic around the pan down with tie gun and all kind of thing.
Exactly.
If the law needs to be changed, well, not if, because you're suggesting it needs to be changed.
Yes.
How long a process would that take?
I'm asking for the relevant stakeholders. I'm trying to make myself a stakeholder as I can see firsthand what is happening on the ground. To start discussions as soon as possible. I've heard that the government has it on their list of things to address in terms of amendments, but I urge the government, same how we can buy clothes on Amazon, buy them overseas, it looks pretty online, but when we try it on, it loose, it not fit with how it's supposed to fit us. I'm saying that this law does not fit. It does not fit, and it has to be amended. Nothing is wrong with amending, but it has to be a matter of importance that is dealt with urgently.
And in your fraternity, that is a popular view?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay.
More or none.
Yeah, more or none. Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Attorney at law, Kimberly Whitaker.